Okay. Hello, audience, wherever you may hail. I'm your host, John Bruni. Welcome to The Focus, where we bring you the most thought-provoking and informative current affairs analysis from around the world. Each episode, we invite top experts and analysts to share their insights on the most pressing issues of our time. From international relations and global economics to philosophy and science, no topic is off limits. Join us as we explore the complex and ever-changing landscape of the world, where we provide valuable perspectives on the events that shape our global community. As part of what we'd like to bring to you, dear audience, is a new series within The Focus called Beyond the Headlines. Here we will attempt to give you a view of the world you will not get from mainstream media, the stories, tragedies, and afflictions of the not-so-headline-grabbing but nonetheless newsworthy fates of countries gone wrong. Why did they get to this place? Why aren't we paying closer attention? Is it compassion fatigue? Is it media bias and ignorance? Are there solutions? And if so, why aren't they being implemented? To start beyond the headlines on The Focus, what better country to help in this, our journey of discovery, than the beleaguered Caribbean country of Haiti? The Republic of Haiti, a state located on the western side of the island of Hispaniola in the Caribbean Sea, holds a complex and tumultuous history. It was once a thriving French colony known as Saint-Domingue, producing vast quantities of sugar, coffee, and indigo through the labor of enslaved Africans. However, in 1791, a slave rebellion erupted led by figures such as Toussaint Louverture and Jean-Jacques Dessalines. This revolt against slavery eventually led to the establishment of Haiti as the first independent Black republic in 1804, making it a beacon of hope for oppressed people around the world. Yet, despite its revolutionary beginnings, Haiti faced numerous challenges throughout its history, including political instability, economic struggles, and foreign interventions. Today, Haiti continues to grapple with the legacies of its past while striving for peace, stability, democracy, and social progress. Today, we are pleased to have on our show Monique Clesca to talk about recent events in Haiti. Monique is a writer, journalist, women's rights advocate, and retired development and communications expert who follows Haitian politics closely. Monique, thank you for joining us on The Focus.
Thank you very much for having invited me. It's an honor to be here.
Thank you. Monique, can you provide an overview of the current situation in Haiti under Prime Minister Ariel Henry's leadership and the challenges the country is facing?
Okay, it's $1 million multiple question. Today in Haiti, we are living pretty much in a totalitarian state with a dictator that is not called a dictator, but perhaps an autocrat, who was installed really by the foreign powers, because it was a tweet that came from various foreign powers associated in what is called the core group that put Ariel Henry in power, because he was indicated to be nominated by Jovenel Moïse a few days before his assassination. So that is the first aspect. He has been in power now for 24 months, 2 years. Now, what has been going on under him? There have been close to 13 massacres that have gone on under him. We have had negative growth, economic growth under him. We have had 2 years ago, it was perhaps a 30 to 50% of the capital that was in the hands of gangs. Now it is close to 80% of the capital that is controlled by gangs. And they pretty much a calamitous rule by Ariel Henry in the last 2 years. Yes, we have a freedom of expression in that we can say media still manages to function fairly well, but there is very little freedom of movement in that such huge patches of the territory are controlled by gangs. And in addition to that, there is overwhelming sexual violence against girls and women by these gangs. It is one of the ways that they control their territories is to use women's bodies as weapons of war. So we are in a situation where there is no elected official in the country. Jovenel Moïse was assassinated 2 years ago. A few months later, the remains of the parliament, they were no longer in power. Their term in office was over. The mayors, the elected officials in cities throughout Haiti, their term also was over. There was Jovenel Moïse, while he was in power, never organized an election. And so you have a situation where one man rules the country with the support of the United States, Canada, France, and the United Nations. And the rest of us pretty much are there almost as his subjects in a way with very little to say. Now, on the other side, I am part of a civil society initiative called the Montana Group that has, in effect, proposed what we call a Haitian-led solution. It is we as Haitians who have met with various sectors, political and civil society sectors in Haiti, as well as in the diaspora, to propose a way forward for Haiti. But the powers that be, Haiti really is a state, but it is a state that is, sadly to say, and shamefully to say, controlled mostly by the United States and the rest of the international community that have the power to decide. So, and along with the leaders who are elected in the past and now not elected, to really stifle Haitian voices like mine in terms of the solutions that are being proposed to do this. There is an additional element that I can bring in, which is a criminal element. When I said the criminal element, in a way, Haiti is a mafia state as described by the journalist and political commentator Moses Nem, in that you have pretty much everyone in power has been involved with criminal gangs, criminal activity. And so that's why they have, in a way, taken over the state apparatus to serve their criminal purposes. And corruption is absolutely massive, and which is why in the last few months, you have had Canada mostly, the United States, the UN is working also on that have sanctioned 2 former presidents, 4 former prime ministers, I believe 4 or 5 former senators, other members of the parliament. 2 ministers of Ariel Henry were actually sanctioned also and had to leave their post as ministers, and not simple ministers, ministers of justice and the Minister of Interior, the kind of Homeland Security minister. So this is a criminal regime that has taken over the state. And that is the particularity of Haiti today. So in effect, you have a state that is separate from its people who are asking for services like education, health, the ability to move around. So that is, in essence, the situation that we are in Haiti today. And this is what we are fighting against. It's a monster that we are fighting against.
Monique, from an outsider's perspective, from this side of the world at least, what you've just said seems like a very extreme situation. I mean, some might even say Haiti is broken as a functional country and on the path to becoming a failed state. I mean, your thoughts don't give me much optimism for Haiti in the near term.
Well, we have hope, and it is true in that there is a total breakdown of state power. There is a massive trash all over, and which is a kind of window of what is essentially going on. The trash that is behind, which is what I have described, the criminal element. And we have a state that does not consider its citizens as worthy of having services. Basically, before we were in this situation, 50% of Haitians had access to healthcare, which is normally is not good. But right now, it's even worse. A couple of days ago, 20 armed men went into a hospital to remove, not only a hospital, into the operating room, to remove somebody who was being operated on for having received a bullet. And they left with the man. And the hospital has stopped functioning in protest of all of this. And so we do have a situation of overwhelming failure. Now, what we are saying, and the group that I have been involved in, has been functioning for over 2 years, 2.5 years, even before the assassination of the President Jovenel Moïse, has been saying, we need to put a stop to this criminal element. We need to say, stop it. And in doing this, to go into a transition mode that will show very clearly that we are no longer into a criminal mode, into a criminal functioning system, to bring in people who are competent, to bring in people who are not involved with corruption, to bring in people who have a value system that is honestly proven value system. And there are such people in Haiti, a lot of such people in Haiti. And to have a transition of 2 years that will break with this criminal element, with this criminal system, and can actually start to transition into a normal governance system that can provide services, in particularly humanitarian services, because there are close to 4 million Haitians who are going to bed hungry right now. There are thousands of people who have been displaced by the gangs, because as the gangs take over territories in their fight for territory, people have to leave. People have to go places. Some people are in parks, some people are in stadiums, some people are with family. And so to get the humanitarian situation back under control, and then within a 2-year period, manage to organize credible elections. Because right now, elections are not possible because, first of all, gangs control 80% of the metropolitan territory. And Haiti is a little bit different than most places in that practically 1/3 of the population lives in the central metropolitan area of the capital, Port-au-Prince. So it is overwhelmingly urban. And so this is what we are saying. We have hope because we see that there are credible people who are involved in the civil society driven initiative. And we have been at it for about 2.5 years. We have a critical mass of people with us, but it is extremely difficult because the powers that be, the United States, Canada, France, and the UN support this criminal regime in the name of this is the guy who was named by Jovenel Moïse, even though there is credible evidence that he was perhaps involved in the Jovenel Moïse's assassination. There are several phone calls, close to 10 phone calls with one of the major protagonists of the Jovenel Moïse assassination, somebody who they have been looking for 2 years, who is missing in action. And this guy was in an intense telephone conversation with the current prime minister, de facto, Ariel Henry. So this is a situation that we have. We have not lost hope. We are in the fight. And we say it is a fight for the soul of Haiti. It is in a fight for Haiti's existence as a state. And I say it very solemnly and very seriously. But we're fighting for that. And we believe that we are on the right side of history.
Monique, gosh, that's a lot of information for myself and our audience to sort of wash over us at the moment. But can I just say, as admirable as all of what you've said is, in order to develop a sense of stability within Haiti, you have to also look at the security equation. Now, before we go into the United States, Canada, France, and all the other externalities, I want to talk for a moment about the internals of Haiti. And if we go back into Haiti's history, you know, the security services within Haiti have always had a very checkered and troubled past with its constituent population. You know, you had the Aristide regime, human rights abuses, the Tonton Macoutes. You had all of this sort of really bad history going back a long time. Now, what you're effectively after is you're after turning Haiti's entire political and social system around. It's ahistoric from a Haitian perspective. How confident are you that not only do you get the politics right, which you do, but you also understand that there is a necessity to set up a different sort of internal security regime that can provide Haitians with the security they need to go about their business? Because without that, politics, you know, it's unfortunately words. You need to act with strength on the ground, because the forces that you're fighting against, you know, they only know brutality, and they will come after you with the sledgehammer. Yeah.
Yeah. To respond to you, let me just add a little something, in that, in fact, the police are in cahoots with the gangs, and the economic sector also. Quite a few of the economic power brokers have also been sanctioned by Canada, and perhaps will be also by the United Nations, which would mean that all countries will have to abide by this. So yes, it is a system. And I believe that you have understood very much what I was saying. And it is to move this forward. What is important, and that's why I say you got it, is the governance system also goes with the security system. And what has happened is, in the same manner that the state has not put in its DNA that it should provide services for its citizens, the security apparatus also has not put in its DNA that its first priority is to provide protection for its citizens, security services for its citizens, but rather it sees its function as protecting the ones who are in power, economically and politically. Therefore, the suppression of other voices, the suppression of, if you are having protests, then chances are you will be arrested, you will be beaten up, or you might even be killed. So yes, it is a one aspect, governance, including the security system. So yes, we are talking about a total makeover of the state, because one of the big problems of Haiti, and I think that's why small solutions, cosmetic solutions will not work, is the inequality. There is such massive inequality in Haiti. I always say that the founders, who were heroes and who we revere, really worked on the freedom aspect. They worked on liberty, but they did not work on equality. And so you have massive inequality in Haiti. It is an unequal state. And so when you have that kind of a situation, unless you are able to have more of a massive middle class and less of, because you have people who are burdened because they can't eat, they don't have places to sleep, they don't have the services they need, etc. And then you have very few who have so much. You have to equalize the society. And so this massive inequality needs to be addressed. And until you address that with a new governance system that will realize that, yes, what we need in Haiti is to provide services, health, education for its citizens, then you will constantly have these kind of crises that come up as people, rightly so, ask for their rights. I remember this crisis that we're in actually started 4 years ago when Jovenel Moïse raised the prices of petrol. And I remember a gentleman, a young guy, who was saying, Jovenel Moïse has to realize the country is not his alone, it is ours also. And it was it was a metaphor for a cry for social justice, asking for, this country is also mine, and I also need to eat. I also need to go to school. I also need to have health care. I also need to have those basic kind of services, quality services, but you don't even have them. So we need some of that. And so we need to equalize. We need to change the society. So, you know, Mexico had its revolution. No matter what issues you may have with how people do this, Cuba has done it in its own way. Mexico did it in its own way. Other countries find ways to come into the modern world where you have more social, more middle class, then you have the underclass. So this is what we actually need to do in Haiti. We need to have a system where people do not go hungry at night. So you need to reduce this massive poverty, this massive misery that people are living under. So yes, we are asking for a major change. And those kinds of major change sometimes happen with a violent revolution. This is not what we're saying. We are saying we can do this. Listen to us. This is what the millions who went in the street protesting since 2018 have been asking for: health, education, jobs, job training, because Haiti, the under 24 population is about 65%. So when you have a young country, your priority needs to be the provision of health, the provision of education, so that they in turn can be equipped to take over the reins of the country. And so this is what we need to remove the criminal elements in the state, including the security apparatus that is keeping them there. And we need to change that also. And there are good cops. There are good people in the security apparatus. They are not the ones who are controlling it. Some of them have stepped aside. Some of them are there. Some of them, when they are sent on mission, then they are not given the proper equipment, or if they're asking for help because the gangs are surrounding them, nobody has, the backups are not coming. And so you have major issues like this. You have a gang leader, the one who is known all over, who is a former policeman. Now, when they needed to give food in certain areas, he was the one doing it. Now, if the police is looking for him, if the UN has sanctioned him, why is he running around? Why are they all over? So it is the criminal element in the security apparatus that is extremely linked with the gangs, with the political elements, with the economic elements. So you do have a criminal state. This is what you have. You have criminals who are in power in the state. It is not to say that there are not countries where there are criminals, where there is corruption, but usually they are in the minority, and you have a majority that is fighting against them. But in Haiti, they are the ones who are controlling the state. And I think it is extremely important to understand that. It is one and the same, the security apparatus with the political apparatus, with the economic power brokers. This is what you have. That's why you have the kind of criminal state that has, in a way, kidnapped state institutions to perpetuate their criminal activity.
Gosh, all right. Let's look at it from another perspective, because there's just so much ground to cover here. Before we return to the Montana Accord, because I really would like you to unpack that for our listeners in more detail. But before we do that, one thing that occurred to me while listening to you is, okay, so you have a mafia state basically in charge of Haiti. That mafia state is legitimized by foreign interests who see no other option but to support the powers that be as they are currently constituted in Port-au-Prince. What role if any, what legitimate role, if any, do foreign countries have in the domestic business of Haiti? I mean, if it is well known that, you know, the Haitian government is corrupt, it's awful, it's perpetuating inequality and injustice, what is it that Western powers seek to get out of supporting the Henry regime? You know, it's you lay the case, but it's not clear what the benefit for Paris, Washington, Ottawa is by supporting this odious, corrupt entity.
Well, I think it's an interesting question, and it's a question that a lot of people ask. Some Haitians say, well, we must have gold under our soil. Some other Haitians say we have petrol under our soil. This is what it is. Others say it is all in the name of stability, because let's go with what we have. Even though it's bad, it is a known element. And this is why the United States supported Papa Doc for 28 years. And so this is somebody who had jails that were like what the Nazis had. So the United States supported it. And so you have a kind of separation, whereas France deals with Africa, more or less, Western and Central Africa, and the United States is more, you know, the kind of Monroe Doctrine. It is the Western world, Latin America, etc. And so you have this kind of a situation. So I believe it is a power, because when you analyze it, as you know, the question that you ask is at the crux of the analysis. Why would you do this? Why would you support a criminal regime? There is no, how would I say it? There is no explanation that can explain it or that can justify it. And how do you do this? Because at one point it was, well, it is so both people do not come into our coast. But what the United States has done now is they come in, most of them, they send them back. Even though they tell the American citizens, do not visit Haiti, but they have been sending plane loads of Haitians who have entered the United States illegally back. So that question is really an important question. And I think it also has to do with power. It is our backyard. As part of the Monroe Doctrine, the separation of all of that. And it is a known element. It may be the spoiled, it may be the odious child, but nonetheless, it is mine. So we believe that's what it is. And we have been in the contact and the Montana Accord, we are built on dialogue. That's what we started on, talking to everybody, talking to different sectors. And I think we have made significant inroads. Inroads, and why do I say this? First of all, we have imposed the idea that Haitians, the solution must come from us. It has not yet been a reality, but we have managed to impose that thinking that it must be Haitians sitting together finding solutions to Haiti's problem. We have managed to impose that idea of a Haitian-led solution. We have also managed to stall a military intervention in terms of the Montana Accord has been very much against military intervention, because we have said that you can come in, you can bring in soldiers. Last time they brought in soldiers, they stayed, I believe, 13 years, the UN soldiers. They stayed 13 years. They brought in cholera from the Nepalese troops, and we still have cholera now. Cholera was gone for over 100 years. They are now what we call MINUSTAB babies. These were children of a sexual abuse by the UN soldiers, and the UN still has not done right by them, who are stigmatized. And look, they are gone. We're still back to square one. So basically, the problem is not let's bring in massive foreign troops to resolve this problem. It is deeper than that. It is a structural problem. So you bring in the troops, okay, it's like a Band-Aid. And then they leave, and then it explodes again. We really need to deal with the major issue, the structural issues that we are dealing with. And we have managed to put that forward so that right now you have the powers that be who have revised, because it's not able to go to the UN, a Security Council, that is not voting for it. And China and the Soviet Union are saying, well, look exactly what I'm saying. Look, the troops were there, and listen to what Haitians are saying. So we have that. We have managed also to tell the powers that be and to impose that there must be a consensus. Haitians must sit together and find a solution that we agree on to move things forward. It is not the United States or Canada that must say, this is it. No. So right now, the UN was not able to do this. The OAS has totally decredibilized themselves. And now there are some efforts that are being made by the CARICOM, which is the regional body, even though we know that they are supported by the US and by Canada, but they are mostly our brothers and sisters, and they understand the glorious past that you described, that Haiti had lived. So, I believe that the Montana Accord has managed to impose a certain way of looking at it, rather than others coming in and resolving the problem, but sitting down and doing this, because these are deep-rooted problems that we need to sit together and deal with, and realize that it is our country and we must move it forward together. It cannot be others who will do this for us. But when you have had so many nitpicking, so many, different, the left, the right, the middle, the top, the bottom, fighting with each other, it has taken time. And we have been able to sit down, to dialogue, to get together. And in the last 2.5 years, a lot of it has been due to the Montana Accord efforts in trying to find a consensus, in trying to say that the way to find a solution to Haiti is really through dialogue, and others must listen to us while we move this forward and assert a certain sovereignty so that we can move the ball forward and go beyond the criminality of this regime, and they really have people who have values and who want democracy, because we are Democrats. We want democracy. We want elections. What we know is if we go to elections now with criminals, they're going to put themselves in power. That's what it's going to be. It's going to be gang leaders who are going to win the elections. And it cannot be that way. So it's all involved with security. Yes, but we know that it can change, and we know it's a fight.
You have been involved in laying out this Montana Accord. Now, before we go into just giving your very brief description on what that is for our audience, again, you raised so many issues in that last section. I need to try to unpack that for myself and for the audience, so bear with me. You know, from my observation, I come from an international relations background, security background. So, you know, when I look at the world, I tend to be very realist in my blinkered view. I'm sorry, I have to admit to that. But when I'm realist, I say to myself, okay, so the West stands for values, and that's a good thing. We ought to stand for values. However, those values are always conditional. They're conditional because there are interests that are permanent. Values can change depending on interests. Now, in the case of Iraq, and when you made that kind of comparison about Haitians thinking there's oil under the ground or gold to be had or whatever, you know, this sort of resource argument. Well, we had that argument with the Iraqis, didn't we? We said, well, you know, Iraq is important to American interests because of the oil and the gas and the this, that, and the other. And so therefore we go off and we fight the war and we try to right the wrongs of Saddam Hussein. Within the situation that we're talking about, of course, stability, power, the Monroe Doctrine, absolutely. I think that these are permanent interests of the United States, which they will always trip over. Because while on the one side, they want to show the world their value-based system and there is nothing better than their value-based system, on the other side, their rush to protect their interests are showing the world a very different side of the United States and US foreign policy. This is not necessarily something that is specific to the United States. I would argue if you were to replace any other power on this planet with the United States, you will end up having a similar kind of situation because power tends to corrupt absolutely. So you will have, you know, country X replacing the United States. They may also be a democracy. They may also consider themselves the light on the hill, but all those wonderful value-based propositions that they are putting forward to the planet and the people of the planet count for nothing when it comes to the hardcore business of governance. And I see that hypocrisy play out here in the Haitian situation. And what we were discussing earlier about, you know, Washington, Paris, and Ottawa supporting the Henry government. You know, why support the indefensible position that government has placed itself in with regard to its people? But, you know, it is one of these things where you also have to link to civil society groups in the United States, in Canada, and elsewhere in order for you to build up critical momentum, develop your organizational base. So you, in this sense, you need to separate the people of the United States and Canada and France from their respective governments. The governments will do what governments always do. Doesn't matter their color, doesn't matter anything about their religion. They will always gravitate toward power and be corruptible. But it's at the people level that things can change. Another thing that you said earlier, which I thought was really fascinating, and again, you know, I like the idea of being in action. You know, when you have such a crisis of injustice and societal abuse, the only way that you can pay that back is by dethroning these people. And if it means a revolution, well, you know, sometimes the people need to speak violently. It is history, after all. And the history of countries are not always predicated on feeling good about themselves and being peaceful, especially when faced against the stubborn will of a corrupt and inefficient and ineffective government. You know, sometimes the people have to stand up and take to the streets and man the barricades. You know, Francophone history is literally predicated on rebellion, violent rebellion. I mean, we're even seeing that on the streets of France now. I mean, so many injustices within France, and people are now taking to the streets. Maybe it's Haiti's turn to do something similar. Not that it would be a good outcome, but it would be something that could remove the cancerous effect of the current government.
I think I hear you. And what I think is important to note is that we have that. The protest started in July 2018. And as I mentioned, the riots for petrol, price of petrol, they continued on and it was a massive scandal. $4 billion Petro-Caribe funds. This was a loan that was given to Haiti by Venezuela for development, education, health, development, roads, stadiums, etc., development projects. And most of that money was diverted into people's bank accounts. And so that massive protest movements. And the first big massacre that occurred under Jovenel Moïse was what was called the La Saline massacre. And they have found that one of the higher ups in the Interior Ministry was involved in providing weapons, etc., to a gang leader to commit the La Saline massacre. And so this was a way of, La Saline is one of those neighborhoods where when you have demonstrations, people come in mass through the demonstration. Demonstrations kept on regardless in 2019 throughout Haiti. In 2020, demonstrations kept on going. Even when you had the COVID, we still had demonstrations. So in a way, the popular movement that you're talking about came out of it. And the Montana Accord is a direct, if I can say, a descendant of this, because civil society groups said, you know, we are watching on the sidelines. Some of us are involved on a personal level. Let us now sit and be involved on a more massive scale. And this is what they put together, a commission to find a solution to the crisis and say, the political sector has failed. Let us now, civil society, get involved. And so they put together a commission, and I am a member of that commission. And what we did in the process was really, for the first a few months, the 3-4 months, we actually went to see every political party in Haiti, and there are many of them, to find out what is the problem to you? What is the long-term solution? What is the short-term solution? And one of the things that I think really hit me was almost everybody said, distrust. Haitians distrust one another. They don't want to talk to each other. And another thing that everybody had agreed on was the need for justice. There is too much impunity. And so it came out of that process. It came out of listening to that. And when we did the accord, we went through pretty much a lot of the demands of the various protest movements, the proposals for solutions, to see what was in it. So we could find really the least common denominator. And based on that, we sat down and wrote the accord. And then we have close to 1,000 signatories to the accord, political groups, etc. And really, this is one of the things that was extremely important. From the beginning, we talked to the diaspora, Haitians in Europe, Haitians in Canada, Haitians in the United States, to also find out their ideas, what were their solutions, get them involved in the finding solutions. So yes, we have been involved in dialogue from the beginning. We are really an expression of the movement of protest, the movement of people going in the street, whereas we sat together and said, what are they saying? What are their needs? What are they expressing? And let's put that together. And one of the things that we have said also is that the last election that was held, that Jovenel Moïse came out of, you had about 18% of the electorate that participated. This is totally different from 1991, when Aristide was elected, where you had about 70% of the eligible who did this. And why do you have this massive drop in people's participation? It's because Haitians have realized, you know, I may go to vote, but bottom line, the United States is going to choose, or Canada or France, they're going to choose who will be in power. No, even if I vote for someone, it doesn't matter, because they're going to come and negate that vote. So one of the things that we have been saying is we need to rebuild that trust that Haitians have in one of the basic aspects of democracy, which is the one man, one woman, one vote. A thing that, yes, it means something. Yet not only it means something, it is sacred, but it has been desacralized over the years, from the 1991 to the 2011, where it no longer matters. And what we're saying now is we need to make it matter again. And we need, this is what we have heard, Haitians have said. We heard them. And we heard the political parties, we heard the civil society groups, the different churches, the peasant organizations, the feminist groups. This is what the Montana Accord is made up of, all these different sectors. And so this is what we are putting forward. We did not sit somewhere and said, oh, this is the accord. No, it came from all of that. And it came from a lot of the protest movements. And we said, let us articulate what has come out of that. And I hear you in terms of what you were saying, in terms of the violence recently. This was in April, a couple of months ago, when there was a bus. It was a minor event, which was a bus was stopped by the police, and in it were 13 men who were armed to their teeth, and they were stopped. And the neighborhood population found out about this, and they came in and said, we are taking over. And this is a violence that you can't control. And not only they took over, but they actually burnt these people. And it is monstrous, but somewhere along the line, it was the frustration of, you know what, 13 gang members. They are going to kill more people. They're going to kidnap more people. Let us stop them. And so, others say, yes, it is a vigilante movement. Well, it may be that, but the normal justice system has not been working for them. And, there were so many kidnappings, and for weeks afterwards, there were no kidnappings. None of that had stopped. And yes, it is bad that people have taken justice in their hands, but it is a major problem in that the state has not done what it should have done for them. So they think that, yeah, we need to do this ourselves.
Yeah. I'm John Bruni, and you're listening to Sage International's The Focus podcast. And from Miami in the US, we're speaking with writer and journalist on the fate of Haiti, Monique Clesca. Monique, I'm reminded of a conversation I only had with a dear friend of mine last night, and we were bemoaning the fact that democracy around the world is sick. The idea of one man, one vote, or one person, one vote is simply not what it used to be. And it's getting worse. There are autocratic tendencies that are rising up even among what we consider traditional democracies. So I hear what you're saying in terms of seizing the day and trying to, proactively from the ground up rebuild everything. Someone has to start it. If it starts and succeeds in Haiti, maybe that's a contagion that will spill over elsewhere and revitalize democracy for everybody. And I'm really praying that that's going to be the case. But, the observations that I've had, especially during the tenure of George W. Bush and the Iraq War, was that it didn't matter how many millions of people took the streets to show their protest against the war in a peaceful, democratic fashion. Democratic governments will do what democratic governments will do, and that is override the people. So again, we're seeing this, dare I say, autocratic instinct coming out of politics, even in democracies. And I suppose one of the great fears now in the United States is the fact that the polity is so divided between two extremes. No one is talking to each other. And so therefore, how can Haitians, anyone in Haiti, negotiate in good faith with either side of politics in the American domain when the Americans themselves don't know what's going on, and where there is this, polarization which won't allow a group of people like yourself to sit down with the Americans and get a coherent outcome? I don't know.
Regardless, we as Haitians must be masters and mistresses of our destiny.
Yeah.
We need to do this. We need to have a state that provides services for our people. We need this. We are, as I mentioned, close to 65% of our population is under 24. They need to eat. They need to go to school. They need health care. We need to do this regardless. And I understand what you're saying. And it is true. I mean, the United States still has not gotten over I have trained myself not to say his name, the orange one. Brazil is still dealing with the effects of Bolsonaro. And let's not even talk about Russia that is going on. And even the, when you see what is going on with Wagner, in the Central African Republic, in Mali, in Burkina Faso, it's an alternative state that is helping other states, but really it's about, a criminal element. And even Sudan, Wagner also is there. So we don't have any illusions. But we have 11 million, 11.5 million people. And we must pay attention to that and to their needs. So in the geopolitical order, yes, we know that there is not innocence there. We know that there is not, necessarily goodwill or good men and all of that. But bottom line, we know that in our little tiny 27,000 kilometers, we need to make changes, and we need to concentrate on that. We need to fight to bring the changes that need to be brought in so that our people can have a better something, so that it's not always, let me take a boat, or it's better to die trying to flee than it is to stay home. And that's what the fight is all about, is trying to make Haiti a better place for Haitians so that we can thrive. And if you decide to leave, then you decide to leave, but it's not because, home is so bad that, you can no longer survive, or that you're running away from being kidnapped or from being raped. So what we are saying is we are in this to make Haiti a better state. And we don't have illusions, I mean, the white in my hair is enough to show that, there is a certain amount of age, experience, and also a certain wisdom that this may be the last big fight of my life, but we have to be in it, because there is too much suffering, with people dying from hunger, dying from just, you go to a hospital and you're dying. I mean, imagine a guy who has a bullet who is being operated on, and 20 armed men go in and take him from there. This should not happen anywhere, and this should not be happening. And so it really is a kind of fight of good against evil. Yes, in terms of values, but that's what it is, and that's what we're in it for. Yeah.
Yeah, look, I totally agree with you. And the other thing that is very reminiscent is the fact that, people are always talking about migration problems from Africa, from the Caribbean, from Mexico. And yet, the real argument is the very one that you put forward. Why don't you recreate your home base in Africa, in Haiti, elsewhere in the world that are not particularly good right now? Make them safe, make them inviting. If people in the advanced economies are so worried about migration and uncontrolled migration, and there was a huge freak out moment back in 2015 that really hasn't gone away, then why has there been no effort really in trying to help and partner up with organizations such as what you're putting forward in terms of the Matana Accords for Haiti, but also elsewhere in the world as well? It's a problem that can be fixed if we were seriously thinking about fixing a problem, but we're not. And so therefore, a lot of what we are seeing will continue. And I'm really, worried about how the whole Africa-Europe dimension is going to go. I don't think it's going to end well, but it could end really well for both sides if Africa develops, or is allowed or permitted or otherwise able to develop in a way that will make life for average African citizens in their respective countries safe to go about their business. I mean, look at South Africa, for instance. Everyone was, celebrating the end of apartheid, and it has gone so badly over a long period of time. It kind of corroded itself, and now, it has murder rates that probably are very reminiscent to what goes on in Haiti. It's not good, and it has to improve. So yes, I
It
think
must
it's
improve. It must improve. And I think it is a good point. And I remember when I was working for the UN in Niger, the president of Niger at the time, Mahamadou Issoufou, used to say, what we need is for you to invest in our development
yeah,
rather than coming in, rushing in when we have problems. Because if we manage to develop our country, then there will be less extremism. The young men will not go towards the terrorism, and they will lead more productive lives.
of
And in
course.
fact, this is what you are saying, and this is what we're saying by providing services, because if you do not provide food, health, education, then somebody comes and provides a gun and says, yeah, if you go kidnap so and so, you're going to make a lot of money. We can split the take. Well, this is more interesting. So it is. That's why I say everywhere it comes to the good and evil thing. It may seem simplistic, but it really is about those values. And it really is about the provision of human rights for all and fighting that massive inequality so that people can feel that they are human. Because if not, they are totally dehumanized by the amount of poverty that is going on. And then they do become violent. So violence begets violence. So by the inequality that we have, in a way, is violence against those people. So what we're saying is, listen to what we are saying. This is what we are proposing. And in terms of the Montana Accord, very concretely, it is a 2-year transition. And, they did not go for that, the powers that be, but look at the 2 years under Ariel Henry in terms of the number of massacres, the number of dead, the numbers of kidnapping, etc. And the Montana Accord, I can guarantee you it would not have been that, because this is not we're not coming from the criminal element. We were not nominated by Jovenel Moïse and his criminal regime. So, what we're proposing is something different. It is a reset. It is a rebooting of the governance system of Haiti. And we believe that it has its merits. And there are some things that have happened. As I mentioned, some of the things that we have managed to put on the table that are now accepted. So we are fighting, and it's a fight for our life.
Monique, 2 final questions. You've been very generous with us today. So just 2 final questions for you, please. Some time ago, we spoke to the University of Chicago's Professor Chris Blackman. During this interview, he said that for every war that has broken out in the world, thousands of others had been prevented through negotiation, discussion, and concession. Is there anything coherent that Haitian gangs are after that can form the basis of some sort of final societal development?
I don't see what it is, because it is kidnapping. For example, there is a major media owner who has been held now for 18 days, and they're asking it's $1 million ransom. Now, I don't see what, there is a doctor, Dr. Geneviève Arti, who was a founder of a major hospital in Haiti, and she was kidnapped, and she has not been heard from for months. So, presumed dead, but where is her body? What are they offering other than that? So I don't see what it is. Now, but taking this idea of negotiation that the professor talked about, well, yes, we are open to negotiating with the Ariel. He does not want negotiation because he is in power and dealing it only by himself. He's the only one in power for the last 24 months. The United States has timidly, we believe, and there is an Irishman who has been Jonathan Powell, who is involved in the negotiations in Northern Ireland, and who has been talking to us and to the different parties in Haiti. There is CARICOM that had organized the regional Caribbean group. They are due to come to Haiti in 48 hours to pursue some time of sit down talking that was started in Jamaica last month. So yes, there are possible negotiations, but I don't see right now the idea of negotiating with the armed gangs.
Well, okay. Finally, and for our listeners, just to give a little bit more of a geopolitical spin to things, I'm wondering whether you can give us a comparison between how Haiti has been governed, I should say, and how the neighboring country of the Dominican Republic is being governed. I mean, both share the island of Hispaniola, both are subject to natural disasters, and yet Haiti does seem to be in the news more often. Why do you think this is the case? I mean, is the Dominican Republic just better administered?
Well, when I was growing up, under Duvalier, my mother, there was one thing that she used to say. She used to say there are progressive dictators and there are repressive dictators.
Right.
And she always gave that example when I was growing up. This is something I grew up with. And she used to always cite Duvalier as a repressive dictator who never invested in the country itself, only invested in keeping himself in power. And on the other side, she gave two examples, which was Castro and Trujillo in the Dominican Republic. And she said whether one was to the right and one was to the left, Castro was to the left, Trujillo was to the right, almost extreme right, but they were both dictators and they invested in health, services, education, roads, etc. So, you know, I take it from there. There is also a documentary that I saw by the Harvard professor, I forgot his name, where he actually starts the documentary by saying, on the right, you have Haiti, on the left, you have the Dominican Republic or vice versa. And then you see the land, whereas it's all green in the Dominican Republic. And, you know, it's a basket case in terms of Haiti, in terms of the environment, you know. And so that's what it is. At a certain point, we did not take the proper turn. So that's what it is. So with Trujillo, even though, let's be very clear, Trujillo had a major massacre of Haitians. Over 37,000 Haitians were massacred by Trujillo's army in 1937, I believe, in the 30s. And perhaps I'm wrong on the dates, but the point I'm making is Trujillo was really instrumental in that massacre of Haitians. But to his credit, he built his state, whereas it is right now a functioning democracy that has huge numbers of tourism, that is developing, that is middle income country, whereas we are in misery. Yes, and we realize that in terms of governance, we missed a major important turn. And this is the one that we want to take right now, to say that we can make a change. We can, we need to reboot and then fast track. We can do this. I believe we can do it. And we have started with the Montana Accord, with the thinking. And people took to the streets and we heard their demands, and we have processed the demand into an accord. And this is what they want. They want democracy. They want the one man, one woman vote. They want services. They want a state that functions. Just yesterday, there were massive demonstrations throughout the world. The biggest one was in Miami. And one of the things that I heard, people kept on saying, we want to be able to come to vacation in Haiti. Yeah. We want to be able to come visit, but we can't. People want to come home. They want to go home. And it's as simple as that. And this is what we're saying. Let's make home home. Let's make home hospitable. Let's make home functional. Let's make home, working so that we can actually live at home, and others who have left can come home, and in a peaceful environment and in a developed environment.
Monique Clesca, thank you for joining us today and for sharing your insights on the focus, and keep up the good fight.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. Yeah.
And to our audience, thanks for tuning into the Focus podcast. We hope that you found today's discussion enlightening and thought-provoking. If you have any comments or questions, please feel free to reach out to us on social media. You can find the Focus on Facebook, referenced on the John Bruni and Sage International LinkedIn pages, and on Twitter, or on the Sage International website, sageinternational.com.au, by clicking the Media Center drop-down menu and hitting podcasts. And please leave us your comments on inquiries at sageinternational.com.au. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, and or leave us a review on your favorite platform. My thanks to our stalwart production team of Malcolm Hughes and Neil Smart, and to the team at the Ozcast Network. Join us again next time as we continue to delve into the most pressing current affairs issues of our time. Until then, stay informed and stay engaged. I'm John Bruni, and from Adelaide, South Australia, you've been listening to The Focus.